New York City transportation has a daily ridership of 3 million. That's a whole lot of moving. Welcome to the elite. And welcome to We Move New York, the podcast. This is the show for the people that move New York. Welcome to We Move New York, the podcast. And here's your host, Hugh.
Welcome to We Move New York, the podcast, episode number 5. And tonight we had the esteemed pleasure of having the first female candidate ever for TWU Local 100 presidency, Evangeline Byars, here tonight. And she's come on the show to further promote her campaign and let the members of TWU Local 100 know why she should be president and why they should vote for her. How you doing, Evangeline?
Hi, I'm doing well.
How was your day?
My day was good. It was good.
Just good, not great?
It was great.
Okay, I was to ask you what would have made it great. How's your campaign coming? How's your campaign coming along so far?
The campaign is coming along really well. Everybody that I'm organizing with, everybody's doing well. So the campaign's going really well. I have excellent reception in the field when I'm meeting with people, so I'm really energized with that. The only resistance I get, of course, is from my opposition and, the union leadership. Other than that, everything is going perfectly fine.
Now, speaking of opposition, you used to be a part of Progressive Action. What made you step away from that situation and go out on your own?
We started having clashes when it comes to, our ideals, what we stand on. It was just time. We were having like inner turmoil behind the scenes that wasn't privy to the membership. However, it became very apparent to me that that was no longer a place where I was welcome and that it was time for me to make my transition out.
Was it hard for you to step away?
It wasn't really hard for me to step away. What was hard stepping away was because the membership has been going through this up and down with leadership, right? Here today, going tomorrow. So the fact that we just came out of contract negotiations and all of the things that were going on, just staying together, because during that time, idealistically, we weren't, it wasn't working. However, I decided to stay because it was, we were going through contract negotiations, various other things were going on. And so, I wrote it out until it was just very, very apparent that I wasn't welcome there. And that it was.
So right now, what is your role in the union?
Oh, I serve on the executive board of TWU Local 100. The executive board is the supreme governing body of the local.
Okay. So what qualifies you to be president of Local 100?
What qualifies me to be president of Local 100 is the fact that I am determined to bring change, and not so much just change, but restoration to our local. Our local is in desperate need of restoration, of being restored. Someone who has integrity, someone who has the know-how to stick to itness. And I've been organizing and leading in various capacities for a very, very long time. So I definitely have, the educational acumen, the organizational ability. I've led, resistance before. So I definitely have what it takes.
All right. So what makes you different from other candidates that are running?
I'm focused on the membership.
Right.
I am the membership. So when you hear me fighting and arguing and going to bat with the current administration, it's out of frustration for what I'm experiencing as well. So I'm not just doing this because I'm looking to move up in the ranks or for some type of notoriety, but it's what I'm experiencing every day at my tools, right? So I am union released, but I did not take union release time. I'm an executive board officer, but I also go to work every night to my tools. I operate my train, I work in the yard, I'm dealing with the issues just like the membership.
Right. You're still living it, so to speak.
Exactly. I'm still living it. It's what inspired me to run in the first place. You know, coming into the New York City Transit Authority, the first thing I was met with was corruption, right? Corruption, cover-ups. There was a rogue TSS who was my school car instructor when I was training to be a train operator, who was in trouble. And while we were out practicing, you know, after hours on the train, he used a situation that happened during that time to basically try to use me as the scapegoat, right?
Right.
So, you know, I warned him during that time that I was the wrong person to try this with, but he did it anyway. And that was my first fight, one, to clear my name and my reputation. And also to deal with the fact that he would think that he could do that. I was the only female there at the time. With all of the men in the class, he just decided to tell all of the guys, we're gonna say that she did something wrong. We're gonna all write G2s against her, and those G2s are gonna cancel out whatever it is that she said, and we just have to stick to our story, right?
Yeah.
So from the beginning of his cover up and what he was trying to put together, I just wrote that in my G2. And before we even went to do anything, I told the superintendent, I told everybody about it. And they went back and asked my classmates, you know, do you want to change your story? And immediately they started to recant, right? So I've been dealing with the corruption that goes on within transit since I started here.
So do you think you were singled out because you're female?
I do, because everybody else was a male, right? There was no other reason for it to happen. We had been doing cuts and ads, and I was in another part of the train or whatever. So I do. It was easy for him to say, well, let's say that she did it, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah.
Do you think you're having a little more difficulty running for the presidency of the local because you're a female? Because as I've been around for a while, and I don't think there's ever been a female candidate for president. I mean, this is a big step for you. You know, some would say it's historic. You know, for you to throw your hat in a ring.
Right.
As far as I can remember, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. There's never been a female candidate for president, so I applaud you for stepping out on faith and taking that leap. I mean, it's a pretty big leap, you know. Do you think as a female you're having a little more difficulty as far as your campaign and getting people to vote for you, etc.?
No, actually, I don't. I have been very, very well received. Very well received. Even more, I expected a little resistance, and I haven't received it. No one has said to me, you know, well, some people have suggested, you know, you're a woman, this is a male-dominated environment, you're not going to be able to do it. However, I believe in the membership, right? I know that for sure, when it comes to when people are suffering, when they're going through things, they're looking for someone who can identify and bring some form of relief, right? And some answers to what's going on. Currently, there's no candidate that's running right now that has a plan on how they're going to move this union forward, except myself. And so what this union suffers from is poor leadership and lack of organization. It is in desperate need of someone to come in and take the reins and basically put things back in order the way it's supposed to be. And I know that I have the ability to do it because I'm doing it now.
Right. So can you reveal some of what your plan is?
Yeah. So my plan, first of all, is to put an organizational structure in place. Currently, the way the union functions, there is no organizational structure. So the most important parts of the union right now, where we get hammered in, is when we're dealing with grievance and discipline, is the number one issue when I'm out campaigning that everyone talks about, everywhere. That and cover-ups. You would be, let me just stay on the topic. Okay, so my plan is to basically put an organizational structure in place where the union actually functions, where the membership has the voice, that when they are experiencing things, I will know firsthand what's happening. So right now, the VPs come in. They don't really have to report what time they're coming in. People come in whenever they want to. They go missing whenever they want to. The membership can be looking for them. You can't find where the VPs are. You can't find where your chairs are half the time. You call people's cell phones, there's no answer, right? So one of my first functions that I'm going to put in place is that there will be an organizational structure where the VPs of the department, also the top four, but mainly the VPs of the department have to have a time that they come in. They cannot come to work at 11 a.m.
Right.
Because they're not morning people. This is a 24-hour operation, right? You should be in no later than 9 a.m., right? To be fair. You should not be leaving before 5 a.m. You shouldn't be able to just get up and go missing and nobody can find you. And you can just say, oh, I'm in the field, I'm over here, right? And nobody knows where you are or your location and whereabouts are accountable. So that's the first thing I'm going to get in place, a lack of accountability. Secondly, the e-board. Now that I'm running, no one on my e-board will be a chair of the department. Currently, the chairs of the department are serving on the executive board, which takes away the voice from the membership. So they hold two spots. So the chair of your department can also be your e-board representative, right?
Okay.
And what we experienced during contract negotiation is the contract that the VP and the chairs negotiated was brought to the executive board, which they sit on. And the union was able to push through this document without us being able to see it, touch it, read it, feel it, or anything. And it was ratified by primarily the chairs of the department pushing their will on the executive board officers. So that has to change, because if we don't have an e-board that can speak on behalf of the membership, right, then that is something that will continue to disenfranchise and suppress the voice of the membership and from having lack of representation. So that's some of the things that I plan on doing as soon as I come into office.
So speaking of contract negotiations, like someone would ask me, like, Q, what does it matter to you who's president of Local 100? And I'll tell them it matters to me, even though I'm not a member of Local 100. It matters to me because as a dispatcher, our contracts basically mirror Local's 100 contracts. We usually get the same raises that you guys get year after year. Contract after contract after contract. So who is president of Local 100 is very important to me. Same thing with grievances and discipline. Any changes usually mirror whatever you guys have negotiated in your contract. So with the financial crisis that MTA is going through now, do you think going forward with the next contract is going to be a really, really tough negotiation?
I don't think it's going to be a tough negotiation, because what I experienced during last negotiation is that this current administration is not prepared for negotiation. They never made requests for a wage increase. There was no request for wage increases. We consistently asked, what is the number that you're going to ask for a wage increase? The president consistently said he's not telling us, meaning he did not ask for one, right? When we were going into contract negotiations, this current administration gave over their demands before transit showed up to the table with their demands. So there was supposed to be an even exchange at the, when you come to meet, the media was there and everything else to watch them exchange demands, meaning contract negotiations had begun. However, there were no demands on the TA side. The only demands that were transferred from Local 100 to transit. They went and reviewed our demands and then came back with what it is that they were proposing. So it's not that we can't get what it is that we want or that the contract negotiations are difficult. It's the lack of preparation and preparedness going into contract negotiations. That's what happened. Also, we have attorneys at Local 100 that are working against us. They're not working in our best interest or in our favor. They're constantly telling us what we can't do. They're constantly telling us what we cannot get, what we cannot receive. So another part of what it is that I'm going to do when I come in is that we will have a new legal team. We cannot continue with the people who we have right now as attorneys at Local 100. We will definitely be undone because Tony Utano, which is the current president, does not read what is put before him. It's handed to him. He hands it off to the attorney. The attorney goes over the documents, gives it back to him, and as a result, when he returns it back to him, that's what it is. Whatever it is that the attorney has agreed upon or agreed to and told him it was okay to sign, that's what he does. He does not do this due diligence. I think Mr. President Utano is a great man in regards to being a family man, but he is a horrible president. He's just not doing anything. So it's not. This is not an attack on his character as a man, as a father, as a husband, but this is an attack on his leadership ability. He does not have the ability to lead. He has dropped the ball on so many occasions, and contract negotiations was the biggest one. And the fact that he allowed his attorney to show up to bring to a contract ratification and not bring in the documentation. That was something that was, very disturbing. We made a lot of noise about it. However, again, it was hard for us to get anything done or even to take it to court and fight it because the membership was so divided on so many fronts because we have a lot of different factions that are operating within our local. But it's not that we're going to have hard, negotiations will be hard. It's the fact that you just have to be prepared. You have to prepare for a contract negotiation. You don't go in to any type of fight or war without first being prepared. And what I've witnessed is that they're never prepared.
Right. How many terms have Utano served so far as Local 100 president?
This is his second term.
Second term?
This is going to be his second term. I think last time was his first term.
Right.
And no, this is his second term. This would be his third term.
Right. So I asked that question because a lot of buzz that I'm hearing is the discussion of term limits.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people feel, along with myself, feel that some of these positions in the union should have a expiration date. No one should be president for 15 years. That for me, that doesn't make any sense. Especially if you're trying to come up in the ranks, you never get the chance to move up if the person at the top can be there forever. So what happens is if you want to ascend to the throne, now you gotta kill a king. What is your opinion on term limits?
I think, the way the union is set up right now, I think term limits would be beneficial as of now. However, if you have electronic voting, if you have a process that is fair, right, where the members are not being disenfranchised, right, then it can work. Because then the membership will have the right to vote electronically and everything else. We're still doing ballot counts, and a lot of other locals are doing ballots still too. However, they're doing that because that's the way they are able to stay in power. We've been fighting with this current administration right now to allow electronic voting, right? Anything we ask gets tabled. When it comes to electronic voting, Mr. Island was even threatened with being, expelled from the union and brought up on charges because he went to inquire about electronic voting, right? And so they know that if electronic voting comes, it's the end of an era of, voter suppression in Local 100.
Right, because one of the things that I hear a lot is when the ballots go out, they go to the wrong address or someone hasn't gotten the ballot. I think electronic voting will eliminate some of those problems. You feel that's the reason why the current administration is so dead set against electronic voting. You think it's 2021 now that electronic voting would be the way to go. I mean, it makes things much, much simpler. I mean, there's a portal, you verify who you are, you log in, you cast your ballot, and that's it. There's no way for anyone to say, I didn't get a ballot because all you gotta do is go online and log in, use your payroll or whatever system they have in place. That would make sense, but you think that they're so dead set against electronic voting because it allows them to manipulate the election in some sort of way?
Yes, it does. It does. And see, and just to give you a little history of my background, right? So before I worked for Transit, I was an organizer, activist. I sold real estate. But one of the things that makes me very much qualified for this is that I was an activist. While I was in college, I served in student government. I led the Mega Everest College student movement. That movement lasted for about almost 3 years. And basically what the movement was about was college was on the verge of a hostile takeover by the community, right? Or not even by the community, but within CUNY. There were community factions that wanted the college because we had the state-of-the-art science lab, right? And so because we had the state-of-the-art science lab, they wanted to take the college, and they basically had shut out the professors at the beginning of the semester. And, you know, one of our professors kept telling us, you guys have to do something, right? You have to do something. So I really was thinking about selling real estate. That's what I was doing, selling real estate and going to school. And, but my professor kept saying, somebody has to do this. Somebody has to take over the newspaper. Somebody has to do something. So I kept hearing her, and then I said, okay, what is it that needs to be done? Let's have a discussion about this. Let me hear what's going on, whatever. And that's what led me to initially get involved. But as I started to really understand what was going on in the history of the college and the community, I understood how vital Mega Everest College was to the community. And I began, you know, working on this campaign to basically rescue our college. Right. We wound up winning. Harry Belafonte got involved with our movement. Carmen Perez from the Gathering for Justice. You know, a lot of community leaders and activist organization. We were heavily supported by 1199 and 32 BJ in our fight to, you know, save the college. And so my experience in going up against corrupt administrations and launching campaigns on behalf of the people is something that I'm very much familiar with. So, you know, that's just a little bit about me to let you understand that I'm very much, you know, equipped and ready to take on.
Right. So Jerry Gonzalez posted this question on Facebook. Speaking of corruption, what are your plans to get rid of corruption in the union?
When he says, okay, so again, one of the things that I was talking about earlier was grievance and discipline, right? That's one of the biggest areas that we find corruption, meaning that labor relations and our local work together. To give you an example of that, currently something that went on in the bus department, there was a bus operator who has a very checkered past of sexual harassment, customer complaints. He beat up a young man on the bus. He did a whole bunch of things, right? He was up for termination. He did a whole cover-up with bus operators and supervisors were involved in this particular situation. He was being investigated by EEO. However, with all of this going on, management did not move to terminate him initially or to do anything. The person who brought the sexual harassment complaint wound up going out with an injury on duty due to post-traumatic stress from having to see him and all of the men that covered up the situation that happened. And as a result, the state had to step in, right, to begin to investigate the situation. This gentleman fought, held out all the way to the end, right to the day of his arbitration, and then confessed to what he did, right? That he did sexually harass the young lady. He did, you know, conspire with these gentlemen to cover it up. There was managers involved in the situation. Everybody has been penalized. And he was the person that did it, and he was allowed to keep his job. However, there's another gentleman that had over 4 cell phone infractions, right? Meaning if you're on your cell phone, after 2, you're supposed to be terminated. However, he's been allowed to consistently do this. Then there's another person who is up for, now everybody got to keep their job and everything else. They're all supposed to be up for dismissal and termination. However, management and the local working hand in hand, they picked someone with a minor infraction to use to give to management for termination. He had a customer complaint, and now he's up for dismissal for a customer complaint. You understand? Mm-hmm. And so because he's not someone who is on the side of the administration, and let me just underscore this too. The gentleman who did these things, he is a union rep, right? So this is corruption. He's a union rep. So the union rep is abusing the members, right? He's allowed to keep his job. The gentleman who also is with them with the 4 cell phones, he's allowed to keep his job. But the gentleman who had a customer complaint has had they're trying to predisciplinary suspend him and take his job from him. So they're like, we'll let these 2 go and we'll give him to you, right? So he's not one of us, he doesn't matter, and everything else. They're actually calling this gentleman, and I've witnessed it because I've been helping him. Call this gentleman on the phone with management, coaching them on how to get him to come in and comply with what it is that they're trying to do. So I am 100% committed to end this type of behavior, right? There's no reason why management and union officials have this type of relationship to where they can disenfranchise the membership. So the way to get rid of it is to change the culture. The culture is that the union reps can do whatever they want and they have no reprieve.
Right.
One of the things that I'm doing right now that we're continuously preparing to do is to give members the information. I've been sending members a copy of the rule book, the book of discipline, and a copy of the civil service procedure manual so that they can begin to understand how to defend themselves and prepare before. So what we do is we put together small groups of individuals. If someone is brought up on have charges against them, they can get in contact with us. And we basically teach them how to go in and represent themselves. Because more likely than not, their union reps are not going to be prepared. They're not going to read over the case. They're not going to ask management for, the evidence that they're bringing, that they have accused them with. They're not going to ask for all of these things that is supposed to be given when you're bringing in charges. They're going to try to rush everything, through to get you to arbitration and everything else, so that you can take whatever the days or whatever the charges is. So the biggest area that the membership is feeling when it comes to corruption is when it's coming to dealing with labor relations. And understand something about labor relations. Labor relations was created to break unions. Okay. That's what it was created for. The Office of Labor Relations came into existence as a direct affront to union organizing and labor, to break the labor movement. And all across the country, you see that this is happening. Now, one thing about Local 100, we actually have a very strong infrastructure when it comes to labor relations, right? There was a woman that was an attorney there, her name was Ritu Singhala, and she basically designed the Office of Labor Relations on our side for the union, of how we are to go in and deal with management. So we have attorneys assigned to you when you go to arbitration. However, our attorneys don't have to win cases. They don't have to call our members in advance to prepare for their cases. Some may do, but some don't. There's a particular woman, her name is Jade. She's an attorney at the local. She's the only person that I'm constantly told contacts her clients before, an arbitration hearing or even a step 2 to prepare. Everybody else just shows up.
Right.
And so this is the type of things that I'm looking to change and to eliminate that area, but also to empower the membership to know the process so that if steps are being passed by or overlooked or they don't have proper representation, they before they are maligned in any kind of way, they can they'll know what to do for themselves. I'm also going to make sure that there is a direct line to my office, right, where members can call in with their complaints about union reps, about things that they're experiencing in the field. Right now, if a member has an issue, they cannot get to President Time.
Right.
There's no way to contact union officials. There's nothing in place. So these are some of the things that I'm looking to implement so that there's always access to me. Communication, making sure that there is that the members are constantly knowing what's going on a day-to-day basis within the local, not just going to the website or finding out something arbitrarily on Facebook, but where there's a direct report where they meet with me monthly. The same way I meet with the executive board, I will hold a monthly meeting for the members that want to come, and address me themselves. I'm sorry, my light went off.
The light went out because it's not moving.
Yeah.
Wave your hand or something.
But yeah, so it would where they can come in and directly and speak with me themselves. So these are some of the things that I'm looking to impose so that I can constantly, have a pulse on what's going on and that I'm not being, sidelined by people in leadership if they decide to go rogue. Right now I have a lot of confidence in the people that are running with me, but I want to make sure that it continues to be that way. That the same, desire and zeal that they're showing to want to run and to move the union forward, that continues and that they don't become corrupt while they're in the seat as well.
All right. Let me ask you a question. As the first female running for this position, who are some of the women that inspire you to do what you're doing?
Oh, there are tons of women, but I'll focus on the women of today, right? No, I'll go back a little bit. So I'll start from first my grandmother.
Okay.
My grandmother was a bishop. She was also in a time where women could not be bishops in church. My grandmother was a bishop. She also was an entrepreneur, a homeowner. She was a very industrious woman. My mother also was an activist. She always organized for our block association and different things of that nature. She always taught me to use my voice and to speak up. And then in history, women who really laid the foundation for me were women like Coretta Scott King. Her, organizational ability and support of Dr. King and the work she did alongside him to me was just something next to amazing. Also, Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm was a woman who was way ahead of her time and who also was moved to act based off of what it was that she had experienced, right? She was a teacher and she had heard, a gentleman talk about women not being able to run and things of that nature and not being involved, and she rose up to the occasion and she ran and she won. Shirley Chisholm was one of her, they used to call her the fighting Shirley Chisholm, right? Because she fought for everything, even in Congress, she made a lot of headway. So Shirley Chisholm, and today I am very, very impressed with Stacey Abrams, the way she has handled herself with dignity and poise after having the gubernatorial election stolen from her in the state of Georgia, the way she made an internal resolve and was resolute to basically, when she couldn't get justice in court, to organize the state of Georgia and flip that state. Not only did she flip her state, but she has changed the trajectory of the nation in regards to leadership. So she's definitely someone who has inspired me. Kamala Harris becoming the first Black woman to become Vice President of the United States is also a major movement when you think about women in leadership and empowered. So those are some of the women who have inspired me today to do what it is that I'm doing. But Stacey Abrams, right now,
Right.
that's my girl.
She's doing
Because watching what she did by just making a decision, and all she did was organize the vote. She flipped everything changed, and that's what I plan on doing with TWU Local 100. I'm gonna flip TWU Local 100 like Stacey Abrams flipped Georgia.
All right, so building on that, it's your first day in office, right? What are three things you would change your first day in office?
The three things I would change my first day in office. Well, one of the things one of the first things I would change is communication. I would immediately start with a communication team. I would also fire the attorneys at Local 100. They would have to go immediately on my first day in office. So communications, firing the legal staff the first day in office, and implementing electronic voting.
Okay. Talon Jones wants to know, how do you feel about the increase in assaults on the subways and buses, and is management doing enough to make them decrease the amount of assaults that are taking place?
Say that again. What did she say?
He wants to know, how do you feel about the increase in assaults on the subways and buses, and do you feel management is doing enough to decrease the number of assaults?
No, management is not doing enough to decrease the number of assaults. The local plays a part in this too, right? When it comes to our safety, all work can stop, right? This would never be allowed to happen in any other city agency. If social workers were going out to investigate homes and being attacked, right, there would be some protocols put in place to ensure that they were safe.
Right.
If when we heard about the things that were happening when the FDNY were going to homes and being robbed and everything else, right? There were protocols put in place to ensure that those things stopped immediately, right? So if a police officer is killed, everything stops until you find who killed this police officer. Our lives should matter just like everyone else. And until the union takes a position on our safety, this is going to continue, right? Until the police officers who are assigned to work in the subways are held accountable for their beat, for what they're doing while they're at work. Where are they? What is their level of accountability for where they're supposed to be stationed and where they're supposed to be on the line? They don't have any accountability. So because there's no accountability, hiring more police officers, you can flood the New York City subway system with thousands of officers. If there's no level of accountability, if they're allowed to hide in our locker rooms, if they're allowed to not be held accountable, if they don't have to do their jobs, then this will continue. So it's also indicative of the local to take a position on this, right? And to also have union reps that are out in the field at night looking to see what's happening. These are the things that need to be implemented. We have a 24-hour system, so we have to have people out watching and monitoring 24 hours a day.
All right. What is your current title?
I'm a train operator.
And how many years you have on the job?
I've been here for 5 years.
Okay. You seem to be pretty abreast of what's going on in buses, although you're a train operator. But it's in my opinion that there seems to be a divide between surface and subway. What will you do to help bridge that gap between buses and subways?
It's exactly what I'm doing right now. As a train operator, what I've been doing, now I gave you an example in subway and in surface, but what I've been doing is I've been going out and meeting with the different departments in service, in CED, in MOW, all across the system and bringing everybody together. So when I have meetings about our campaign and what it is that we're doing, I don't only go and just meet with MTA bus or TA service on that store by myself. I bring train operators with me. I bring bus operators with me. Everybody is meeting and mixing with each other and finding out that we all are suffering under the same tyranny, right? There is a myth that says service is treated better than RTO.
Right.
Service, if you go and ask them what it is that they're experiencing, they're not feeling that on the ground. However, what their leadership has been able to do is to keep us, what the leadership has been able to do is to keep us all divided, right? Currently, to use buses as an example again, I emailed on their behalf. I was told, you're not a bus operator, they need to contact us themselves. I said, I don't have to be a bus operator. I'm serve on the executive board. This issue was brought to me and I'm bringing it to you. The same thing with MOW. It was brought to my attention in MOW that the gentlemen were over there, the track inspectors were being investigated by NIG and did not have representation and was looking for help and nobody would help them. I immediately jumped on that. So it's not so much that, we're divided because we want to be divided. It's the culture of how they maintain control. So on my watch, that's not going to happen. There will be joint meetings. There will be mass membership meetings where we're all meeting together, where they have a mass membership meeting once a year, but we will come together more than once a year to discuss the major issues of the union. All members of the union are invited. We have the ability and the means to do it. So under my administration, all of these things are going to change. It will definitely be, the members will immediately feel the relief with me being at the helm.
Right. So with everything going on right now with COVID, how are union meetings being handled? Are they being handled digitally or are they just not happening at all?
No, we're having union meetings. We have union meetings. They put the chairs apart, whatever, and people are coming to the union meetings. They're being held. Mm-hmm. However, the MTA still has not been held accountable for the mass death that we have experienced on their watch due to them not implementing that pandemic policy plan that they had since 2012. The TWU Local 100 has every right to sue the MTA for how they handled the pandemic in the early days, days and weeks when the pandemic first went into fruition. They still have not told members that they can fill out an injury on duty form for being, for catching COVID while working through the pandemic, right? So people are going out, not documenting, right? They're not documenting that they had COVID. So down the line, if anything ever happens to them, and they are experiencing any type of, side effects or adverse effects from having COVID and catching it at work, how are they going to be compensated? They're not, because there's no way to prove that they were infected at work because they never documented it, right? So myself and all of the other members that are documenting, we're covered. Like for a perfect example, I've been having since 2000 and I got COVID March 21st of 2020. I've been having fatigue, extreme fatigue for a long time. And I was thinking maybe it's my diet, so I changed my diet, right? Still feeling fatigued, tired. Sometimes I get fevers that come, sporadically on and off, right? So I realized that I don't have COVID. I've tested for COVID. I don't have COVID. And then when I started to read what has been documented in medical science, that this has become to be known as the adverse effects of having COVID-19 is the fatigue. Some people have memory loss and headaches. That hasn't been I haven't had the memory loss, but I've definitely experienced the extreme fatigue, the fevers coming back and forth and things of that nature. So we're still learning what is the effect of COVID, and there has been nothing put out by the union or management saying that we should document, nothing. But they told us to go get the vaccination. That's everywhere, and they're paying you for it. Right. They're not telling you, all you have to do is fill out an injury on duty form and to document your illness that you got infected here and that you'll recover. Because if you have to go out for 3 or 4 months, 5 months, there's still people in the hospital now recovering from COVID. So if you have these long-term, if you have these extreme cases and you didn't document, how are you going to prove that you got it at work?
Right. So you would recommend that anyone that's contracted COVID-19 while on the job to fill out an IOD form?
Immediately. And even if you had it and you never did it, you need to get in touch with the attorney, McIntyre, Reardon, and Accardi. You need to get in contact with that law firm and give them your information and everything else so that they can help you, because they can start the paperwork and everything for you. Everyone else who has done it, it has started to go through. I had a bus operator today. You know, he was given a bus. He was out driving his bus and was told to return to the depot. That bus he took, somebody had tested positive for COVID and he needed to bring the bus back. It was too late. Now he was infected with COVID. Mm-hmm. He's out, he's returning to work now from having an injury on duty from COVID. I told him, file your injury on duty form. You don't know what's gonna happen to you after this, but you know you got infected at work. You need to file.
All right. Are you finding a lot of people are being met with resistance when they go to fill out IOD for COVID?
No, they're not met with resistance, not now, because it's become a part of the practice. You can call RCC directly. You know, you don't even have to deal with your managers and everything else, or whatever the chain of command is, because everybody doesn't have an RCC. Right. But we have Borough Control Center in RTO. So if you get sick and a manager is giving you resistance or OHS is giving resistance, just call RCC and tell them that you need to fill out an injury on duty form, and they'll take the report and make sure that it is dispatched to the proper people and notated, and you will be able to do it. They'll even email you a copy of the injury on duty packet. You know, so this is not something that's not common knowledge to supervision. Mm-hmm. However, they're not letting the membership know.
All right. So let's wrap up now. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to let your potential voters know about yourself and your campaign and what you're trying to do?
I want them to know that I am determined to fix this union. The corruption runs, very wide and deep, and I am committed to making sure that we get some type of relief, right? When I first started out on this campaign, I was in my car. I had been approached by the opposition team and basically told to get down or lay down and not run at all. Right. That team had no plan. That core group of people who asked to speak with me had no plan. And I made an eternal resolve that I was going to run for president of Local 100. And we have an amazing campaign that is underway. The members are very receptive, and I want you to know that I'm committed all the way to the end. If you need me in any way, shape, or form, you can contact me. I am available for you. And I just want them to know that I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm flipping TWU Local 100 in 2021. And we have 11 months to go before I am president of Local 100.
Let's just have one more question. Would you be open to having a debate with against the other candidates that are running for the presidency?
Yes, I welcome it.
Okay.
I welcome it.
All right, so I'll reach out and see if they're open to it, and then we can have a debate right here on the show. So let's see what everyone has to say. So there you have it, folks. You got Evangeline Byars running for president, first female candidate. Oh my God, I'm shaking the table. I'm sorry. First female candidate for TWU Local 100. She's vying for your vote. I hope she was able to express what she plans on doing and the change that she was plans on making within the union, and she wants your vote. So we'll see what happens come when's the election? November?
Yes, it's November. The ballots go out in November. The ballot count will happen in December.
Okay, thank you. You have a good night, and thank you for taking time to come on my show. I definitely enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to We Move New York, the podcast. New York City transportation has a daily ridership of 3 million. And we're the ones that are moving those butts. This is the show for the people that move New York. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had fun, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at We Move New York, and hit the website at wemovenewyork.com. Until next time, keep on moving.
Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next show. Peace.